Greetings. I am Alan Wolk, the co-founder and lead analyst of TV Rev. We are an analyst firm, as the title might imply. We also have a website, tvrev.com. Check it out. I am very happy to be hosting this panel, which is called Transitioning from Linear TV to Streaming, which is exactly what's happening right now. And I have some great people who are going to discuss it with me. And to start off, I'm just going to let them introduce themselves. So first off, Stacey Danzis.
Hi everyone, Stacey Danzis. I'm the SVP of Digital Media Ad Sales, encompassing direct, programmatic, audio, and podcasting. I've been with the company for almost 10 years, and I'm thrilled to be here today. Look forward to some good conversation.
Excellent. And next up, we have Christo Owen.
Hey guys, Christo Owen. I'm the SVP of Advertising Business Development and Programmatic at Paramount. So the job is kind of twofold. One is in advertising business development. It's to help Paramount's general advertising initiatives and make sure we have best practices for our sales, prop, and market. And then separately working closely with our programmatic direct team on our go-to-market strategy, as well as owning any relationships in the marketplace on technology side with SSPs, DSPs, and anything under the sun within this marketplace.
Okay, and next up we have Marnie Rommel from Beachfront.
Hi, I recently joined Beachfront as the Vice President of Business Development. I'll be focusing on driving adoption of Beachfront's sell-side ad serving, ad decisioning technology, and also on developing and managing our monetization partnerships with the leading media owners, programmers, and distributors.
Okay, and last but not least, we have Travis Hockersmith from Vizio.
Hi all, I'm Travis Hockersmith, VP of Platform Plus here at Vizio. Basically, my team oversees the operational aspects of our ads business, as well as our data licensing business that we market under the umbrella of Inscape.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So I'm going to start off with a question that's very relevant to what the title of this is, which is, the shift from linear to streaming. So in the last, couple of weeks even, we've seen pretty much all of the major players now in streaming announce that they are going to have ad-supported tiers. Netflix, Disney, HBO, and they're joining, obviously, Paramount Plus, Hulu, Peacock, and Discovery in having advertising. In addition, you have Apple and Amazon, who have live sports, which, while they don't have ads on everything else, they have ads on their sports. So ads everywhere. So Christo, is this the moment? Is this the moment where big brands are going to start going, you know what? Everybody, we can make make the shift to streaming now. We're going to start spending more of our money there.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I still think we're in a hybrid world. What we like to say at Paramount is CBS, is still the #1 network in America for broadcast. So
right,
we want to be able to have optionality, and I think buyers are going to look for optionality as to what they want to run across, whether it be linear or streaming digital endpoints, depending on what their KPIs are. If we look specifically more on our side at Paramount, we believe we have a differentiated strategy where it brings together the idea of free and paid content on the TV screens in the living room. You can consume it any way you want to. And within Paramount itself, we look at Paramount as an ecosystem where basically you have access to broadcast, to cable, to free ad-supported TV, really led by Pluto TV, which is the #1 in the entire country and growing internationally. We also have paid streaming with ads led by Paramount Plus. So it's really an ecosystem. And then Pluto TV is really that connective tissue or an anchor, because we actually push content on the platform for Paramount Plus. We tease out channels like the P Plus hits channels, picks channels. We also have cross-platform promotion to linear, where we actually partner closely with companies like Vizio, where we push out content to the TV platforms or the MVPDs, as well as actually run CBS broadcast content on the platform itself. So I think that the idea here is we want to be able to provide a holistic approach to buyers that still want to buy in TV and traditional linear, that also want to buy digital. In the end of the day, we give them optionality on their KPIs to allow them to figure out what they want to do best.
No, that makes sense. Stacey, what are you guys seeing? Because you're also a TV network.
Sure. I feel like I can echo a lot of the things that Christo is seeing. I feel like A&E Networks, while it doesn't have its own streaming app, certainly does the same thing that Christo was talking about with CBS and Paramount. We push our content across as many platforms as possible. And when we're not selling it ourselves, we have our licensing department, which is also having that part of our business as well. I think, putting our content everywhere and everywhere possible for our consumers to find it certainly creates a flywheel effect to us. And even if it isn't brand new fast follow content, like some of the library content that we're putting on fast channels, it is bringing in interest, bringing in diverse audiences, and bringing back people to the mothership of A&E networks to watch their content. So completely agree. I do feel though that, holistically, linear, certainly very important. We are very much seeing in the younger age range a more significant shift. So I feel like following those eyeballs is important, while also realizing that the total audience is important from the linear standpoint, and kind of getting away from those antiquated demos. But it's kind of where we stand.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Travis, from your POV, what do you got? What are you guys seeing? You see everything that's on the glass, so you have a view there.
Yeah, we do. And what I'd say is, generally speaking, what advertisers are looking for is scale. They want to reach as many of the relevant audience as they can across, whether it's streaming, linear, it doesn't really matter as long as you can manage reach and frequency across the environments. So I think all these ad-supported services coming into the streaming space are definitely going to accelerate adoption of streaming, only because it's going to make the audience that can be reached in streaming that much bigger. One of the big challenges that advertisers have at the moment in streaming is that you max out budgets fairly quickly from a reach frequency perspective, because the audience is not yet linear TV sized. I think as these new ad-supported offerings come to market, that linear sized audience is going to start to materialize. And then if you run ads across both the streaming environment that's now bigger, as well as the linear environment that is going to be significant in scale for some time, then you start to be able to piece together a large audience that you're reaching at appropriate frequency levels. And so I think that, this is a good thing generally for the streaming side of the industry, but from an advertiser's perspective, it doesn't really matter if it's streaming or linear. It matters that you're able to address a very large audience at an appropriate frequency.
Right. And Marnie, over to you. I mean, because you guys, you're buying and selling this stuff. So, what are your people telling you?
Yeah, I mean, I think to echo what everyone's saying is, the theme we just saw of the upfronts was that it's time to lean into the digital. Our advertisers are continuing to lean into the digital space, but they're not turning their back on linear just yet. And I don't think it's going to happen for quite some time. They're just, the advertisers need to close the gap by investing in all these forms of CTV to reach the consumers and get the audience that they need and close that gap.
Right. So do you think we're going to start seeing people looking, certain advertisers, not all of them, but looking at streaming for something more than just incremental reach? Because right now that seems to be the major, has been the major use case is let's just, whoever we're missing on linear, we can cache them on streaming. Now there's going to be so much more inventory. Do you think, I'll start with you, Marty. Do you think we're going to start seeing people saying, hey, let's try, in this hybrid world, let's try and put some more of our budget, make this our primary and do linear almost as the incremental?
I kind of think we already are. It really depends on the advertisers' KPIs and what they're already looking for. There are definitely types of advertisers out there that are going straight to streaming for their budgets. It really depends on the data that they're looking for and what their KPIs are.
Gotcha. I see both Christo and Stacy are nodding along. Stacy, what are you thinking?
No, I agree. I mean, I feel like we're not there completely, but like Marnie said, I feel like it depends on the advertiser. I think that we've kind of heard in the upfront kind of like chatter that's going around that people are asking for anywhere between 20 to 50% of their budgets to be laid down in digital. And it's something that people really aren't balking, at. A few years ago, I think we were in a different situation, but I feel like tides are starting to change. I wouldn't call linear the additive part yet. Yeah. It's still the dominant force that's there, but I do think that all of the pieces, when added together, are creating that holistic balance that I think that we're all striving for, to keep our companies successful.
Yeah. Christo?
Yeah, I mean, you guys have basically said it. I mean, it's, providing that optionality to these folks. If there's something on digital specifically where they want to hit certain KPIs, and you might be more of a new age advertiser that's digital centric, you might not run as much on linear. But with the amount of reach you still get on linear and the value you get against specific content on the platform, I don't think it's necessarily just walking away yet. I think it's still going to be a material portion of everything. But the goal is that, as things continue to shift, there's massive amounts of scales on both sides of it. So you really have that choice of what you want to do.
And Travis, any thought?
Yeah, I think I agree that the linear portion is not the additive portion just yet, but I think that the digital part of a buy can serve basically two purposes when looked at in the context of linear versus additional reach, yes, but also additional frequency. We're seeing a lot of light linear viewers that a brand needs to reach a number more times in order to land their message. The digital environment is good at adding frequency as well. It's also good from a targeting perspective for performance advertisers. So you have that one-to-one targeting capability, and depending on the advertiser's objectives, there could be really compelling reasons to look at the digital part of the buy as the more performance-oriented part of a buy.
Right. Actually, it was an amazing segue, because I was actually just going to talk about the fact that I had recently seen some stats that there are very few people who are only, pure digital, pure streaming or pure linear, that most people are some form of hybrid. And Krista, you had actually introduced that word before, so I'm going to throw this to you. And that you have this weird mix. There's an interesting study. You're saying you have this weird mix where you have, some people are heavy linear, some people are heavy streaming, but it varies, in the person. In other words, somebody may watch a lot of linear during the football season, but then the end of football season, they're like, oh, I need to catch up on all those streaming shows I haven't seen while I was watching football. So, then suddenly they turn into a heavy streaming viewer. So, how are you guys, how should advertisers think about this world? Like, what should they do to prepare themselves?
Yeah, it's the streaming world's more complex, right? So there's a lot more fragmentation that you deal with in general in the streaming world. And so we feel great in our position here that we offer out so many pieces that if you do want to stream a football game, or you do want to watch, broadcast content or cable content, or even, free fast ad supported TV, we really believe that brands should double down with partners like that. You can kind of have a menu of everything to do it. And we've really catered to the marketplace for that. And so our goal has been, if you're a brand, or if you're an agency that's working with several brands that have several KPIs, our goal is to have, as much offering, as much optionality to you guys as possible. And if we start with kind of streaming digital, what we did is we brought our company together. So Paramount is a combination of Viacom, CBS, and Pluto TV, evolving the CBS All Access and the Paramount Plus. We've taken all of our CTV assets and content into one overall offering called IQ. And so we now aggregate out 80 million people, 80 million monthly viewers that are more than 90% on TV screens on a monthly basis. And so the goal is, if a buyer wants to hit efficiency, they can do that. If a buyer wants to hit a specific audience, they can do that. If they want to run against age and gender, we offer everything. So we've pre-curated content bundles for them. We've brought advanced audience solutions. We have agent demo. But I think more importantly, and this is part of like how the buyers think about it too, is that transaction's a big complexity as well, right? The days of just simply running sponsorships, managed service IO are not behind us, but it's a healthy mix of everything. So we've got to be very much programmatic first in a lot of avenues. And so the ability to go out and serve clients, the ability to run programmatic guarantees or PMPs or whatever else we want to do. Again, the theme of today is optionality. We just want to make sure that buyers can work with and double down with fewer partners so that we feel really good that they can scale up their business and be more efficient.
So Travis, since you gave me the segue in here, what do you think about optionality and just in general, like, how should buyers and brands be looking at like how to reach people across this hybrid world? And then there's something else I want to follow up on with you. So answer that. We'll get to.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's about reaching again a large audience at an appropriate frequency, and to do so as an advertiser, you're likely going to need to work with a number of different content owners. The trick, though, I think, as this space continues to grow and remains fragmented, is the measurement, the ability to measure universally across the buy, so that you can coordinate different parts of your buy in order to drive that reach frequency goal that you as an advertiser are looking for. So as we continue to drive scale, it's going to open up a ton of opportunity, but we need to find as an industry, a way or ways for advertisers to be able to measure holistically across their spend. Or else, if we don't crack that code, it's going to prevent the volume of ad spend that we'd all like to see from coming into the space.
Gotcha. So I wanted to follow up, and then I'll get to Stacy and Marnie. Frequency. So one of the things you've been, talking about it like it's a good thing, but we also hear a lot on streaming that there's just, that there's sort of, it's hard to control for frequency a lot of times. That too many, we've all heard stories, we've all had it happen to ourselves of, seeing the same exact ad 4 times, in a row on a streaming show. So how do we sort of give advertisers the frequency they want without like battering them down, like winding up in that situation? Travis.
Well, I think first it's about, again, broadening the opportunity to reach the appropriate number of people to hit a frequency goal. So if you've got a big budget as an advertiser, but the audience is small, a byproduct of that is over frequency. The bigger the audience gets, the more budget we're going to be able to take at appropriate frequencies. But there's also another piece of the equation that we've got to solve for, and that is in the streaming space, buy with various content owners, it's harder to coordinate than in the linear space, where there was one universal currency that was measuring across basically all of the ad opportunities within linear. Within the streaming environment, you could easily, as an advertiser, be spending with content owner A and content owner B, with those parts of the buys being uncoordinated. And that drives some of the bad user experience that you're talking about, Alan, because you might get 3 ads on content owner A, 3 on content owner B. You as a viewer just register that as 6 exposures. But behind the scenes, the root problem is that there's no coordination between different pockets of inventory.
Gotcha. Stacy, I'll give you comment if you can comment on both the frequency and then just the general reaching the hybrid.
Sure. I mean, I feel like I can, really dovetail on what everyone else is saying. I feel like we've moved from like an agency answer to like a client specific answer. And I think we've all said this already before. It really is a case by case and an advertiser by advertiser look this year. I think it's harder for all of us. But since one size doesn't fit all, I think that we need to be flexible and provide as many purchase paths as possible, whether, it's linear or direct IO with big awareness, whether it's automated for ease of efficiency with PG, or really drilling down with PMP, or even, some of our at A&E Network, our performance and precision tools that we have. We really need to give those options to the advertisers so they can really drill in onto those KPIs. Because frequency, I think, means a different thing to every advertiser as well, and every agency too. So agree with you on scale. There's a lot of complaints about frequency, but I do feel that the money still continues to come in. So I think they're willing to work with us as we solve for all these issues.
Gotcha. And Marnie, what are you seeing from your end there?
Yeah, so kind of agreeing with everyone else, but we're seeing, what Christo had mentioned earlier is that we are seeing a lot of companies building the tools in-house, like with their own inventory, to help manage the incrementality and how do we manage that? And that's what Beachfront's convergent TV platform is working on it, having a solution to help solve building the pipes so that the advertisers can come in and manage a budget and help with the ad pod construction and help with the frequency issue in that way, and make sure there's no deduplication, even though working with multiple partners, and really just trying to look forward and fast forward thinking, because we're still going to be managing both of these mediums for quite some time.
Gotcha. So now I want to turn to something we've been sort of dancing around, which is measurement, right? Which, we're in this weird world now, again, where if you're a TV buyer, you're used to just doing everything off of Nielsen. And then, this year, everybody's like not transacting off of Nielsen. There's iSpot, there's, ComScore, VideoAmp, a bunch of other companies that are in there as currency. And then nothing, nothing on streaming is actually off of Nielsen. And it's all, and it just seems like everybody has their own measurement system. And it just, so Travis, you guys are the measurement, like, how do you get beyond this, this sort of like, how do we, well, first of two, I'll give it two parts. Do we need to have a consistency on it, or is it better to have different measurement systems? And how do we just sort of make it easier for people to buy and to understand the app and apples to apples on their buy?
Yeah, I think no, I don't think that there's a need for a universal currency like we had in linear. I think that empowering advertisers to measure their buy consistently in any way that they deem appropriate, I think is very important, and it will bring more ad dollars into the space as we support multiple currencies as an industry. We're fueling a lot of these currencies, all the ones that you named, Alan. We've got our ACR data in, and we believe that ACR data is certainly going to be one of the key ingredients to these new currencies, because some advertisers, it's going to be all about reach and frequency, like I've been talking about. But for some advertisers, it's not about reach and frequency necessarily. It's about performance metrics. And we need to have currencies that allow advertisers to buy the outcomes that they're trying to achieve, and do so in a kind of a uniform way across their entire buy. And to do that, I think that we're, as an industry, going to need to really get behind the concept of multiple currencies, that some advertisers are going to prefer, say, Nielsen, some iSpot, some VideoAmp, some others. And our ability as an industry to support those multiple currencies is, I think, going to be a good thing for everyone.
Gotcha. Marnie, what are you thinking?
I couldn't agree more. I think that we're all going to rally around a few. I don't know if there's going to be tons in the future, but I think it's we're going to make us all work together and try to figure this out. But it seems like a mess, but I think we'll get to a better place. And but I do like that we're not going to be a single form of truth like the linear TV has been for some time.
No, that makes sense. Stacy.
I agree. I mean, there's a lot of noise out there in the marketplace over the past few months about this. I think A&E is really going in with kind of like a speed dating mentality, kind of listening, learning, really seeing what all the competitors are doing, because we know they're all not good at everything. They seem to have one part or a few parts that they're best at. So we want to make sure that we're taking the holistic approach of what's not only right for us from a matchability standpoint, but what's also right for the client. And if someone's looking for the household, we can certainly use our addressable platforms. If someone's looking to target a mom with diapers, we can certainly target in that fashion as well. But again, back to those KPIs. I do too feel that there's a lot of companies out there. I think for us to kind of move forward, consolidation is certainly going to be key. Tech is certainly increasing, but fees are something that we also need to, from both sides of the table, need to get behind as well.
Gotcha. And Christo, you're laughing to a lot of that.
I'm laughing at Stacy's analogy with the speed dating. That's actually a perfect example over the years, seeing that. It's interesting. So, Stacy, us, and a few other pubs have really brought together the OpenAP, which is a consortium of third-party JV out there that really helped to standardize alternative measurement and currencies for linear as an alternative to GRPs. And I think that's done a tremendous job kind of normalizing, getting that going. They've quickly evolved into also being a digital entity, right? And so we're working with them on different best practices to look at alternative currencies to age and gender, as well as nuances around measurement and, any other kind of strategic identity concerns, or anything that it's kind of the big industry discussions and complexities. And I think strength in numbers and bringing together the largest and smartest minds on the publisher side of the business is a great way to forward the marketplace on that. So we normally take that tact, but at the same time, we're going to have conversations with other folks. And if we strategic align with agencies on certain offerings or certain individual brands of what they're looking for, I agree. I think it's way too easy in this Lumascape to have too many companies within there to easily come in and say, hey, we just built out this great new technology. We're working on MRCS certification, but we're not there yet. And so there's a lot of those conversations out there, but I think it's probably the 80-20 rule of there are incumbent technologies and incumbent measurement, but there's also new ones that are coming to the table, and we'll all work together to basically bring it to the right spot. Gotcha.
So I'm going to stay with you for a second there, because you mentioned Lumascape, and recently at the Luma DMS conference, there was an interesting conversation. I'm just curious what you guys thought about that. At some point, we really do need to decouple program ratings from ad ratings, that as more people are watching things on streaming, there's a need for program ratings because people want to know how many people are watching the show for production, and there's a lot of other reasons. But at the same time, they want to know how many people actually saw my ad. And then there were other people saying, well, no, on linear, they're sort of tied, and you want your ad on a show with a lot, with high ratings, because that, there's a prestige to that. So not to put you on the spot, but do you think there are situations where it makes sense, or that as we sort of move towards the future, that we will start seeing separate ratings for programs and ads?
Truthfully, I'm not 100% sure, but I would say in the world of streaming, there's just so many more analytics on the platforms out there to be able to understand this. We're always going to continue to look at content and how much scale we can get across our offerings, looking at number of viewers in a given time frame against our overall ability to run for our advertisers. But analytics are key, right, for the future of this business, and more dimensions across them are very, very important. So yeah, I think there's a world where you're going to start to look at things differently on the digital streaming side relative to what goes on linear.
Right. Travis, what are you thinking on that?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a compelling reason to be able to split out ad ratings from content ratings. Some advertisers are going to want to buy hit programming, so you're going to want to marry the two, right? But with the technology that's available now, it's very possible to split content ratings from ad ratings. In linear TV, it was more difficult to do that just based on the way the measurement worked. But within digital, with ACR capabilities pretty present across the industry, you're easily able to tell on a device basis what's going on in terms of an ad rating or a content rating. So I think that there's really compelling reasons to split up the two and marry them where it makes sense.
Right. So I just wanted to so how does that work? Do you guys actually have sort of a second by second way to tell like who saw, Nielsen used to just measure every 15 minutes. With ACR, can you get more granular than that?
Yeah, with ACR, you can measure second by second, and for targeted ads, where within a particular program, within an ad pod, there could be thousands of different ads appearing within the same ad pod, depending on the targeting across the country in the streaming environment. And we can pick that up on a second by second basis. Advertisers can watermark their ads so that they're even more detectable by ACR. And we can tell exactly what's happening second by second at the device level, which wasn't possible in linear with the legacy tech.
Gotcha. Stacy, what are you thinking on that?
I don't think I have anything to add outside of what they said. Can I just give a ditto? A
generic ditto? Ditto is good.
I think it's all covered.
And Marnie.
I'm gonna go with Stacy and ditto as well.
Okay. Well, we're gonna get back to you, Stacy. One of the sort of hallmarks, one of the ways that streaming services have sold themselves is, hey, we have lighter, ad-supported streaming, I should say, is, hey, we have considerably lighter ad loads on linear. But if more money is going to linear, I've heard people express the fear that, are there going to be enough ads? So is there going to be some pressure to, in other words, is there going to be pressure to increase ad loads on streaming, and should we give into that pressure? In other words, like, are we kind of light now and the market can handle a little bit more, or it varies from sort of the type of programming?
I mean, I feel like streamers are in, a really hard business with the economy the way it is, with the cost of creating great content to keep people involved, with the rise of prices for subscriptions or whatnot. I think that ads are kind of a must. And for those that already have ads, I think that the ad load will probably increase. Maybe not today, but in the near future. I just think it's going to be something that has to be done. Should we? I feel like it's going to be a hard thing for them to really get the market behind, because if they're paying more than double the CPM for some of these streaming programs, is it worth it for the industry with only a little bit less than what the regular ad load is? So I feel like, we're certainly going to have to increase, but I don't think it's going to be an easy, step for the buying market to swallow.
Gotcha. Marnie, what are your people telling you? What are you thinking?
So I don't think it's not necessarily that the ad load needs to increase. There's a way to look at it that a constrained market could drive CPMs. And then there's other ways to drive revenue besides heavy ad loads. Just like I had referenced earlier, is really focusing on ad break construction and working and experimenting, because you can on that. Beachfront is offering, revenue per second logic, just different ways and getting more creative, I think, is another option rather than seeing ad loads increase.
Can you explain a little bit what that means, ad pod construction?
Yeah, just how many ad pods, and looking at the, if this ad is going to warrant a $30 CPM, or you could do two 15-second ads that could do $20 CPM. Really just looking at your construction and how you're going to break it down and how the bids and that sort of fashion. And you don't necessarily need to do one ad per break, and
right.
then also looking at it of deduplication of a lot of times we see right now is if they can't find an ad that's not going to be the same Pepsi ad, that they
right.
just don't show an ad, or you see two Pepsi ads, and really just focusing more on being more creative and getting more smart about your construction.
Huh, that's interesting. I did not even realize you could do that. So Krista, what are you thinking?
Yeah, no, I agree with these guys are saying. I think, for me, there's a few things. So this is part of the reason why we as a company is diversified in free and paid. So obviously with the free side, you run your ad supported models, but we want to double down and make sure there's options for folks that want to have better user experiences where they don't have ads in general. But in talking about an environment where there are ads to monetize, it's always important to toe the line of TV quality experiences on streaming endpoints. And so that is how we continue to allow clients or help clients get onto digital and streaming environments, is that you need to make sure that ad load is and quality of the ad load and experience is where it needs to be. Otherwise, they're going to start to question, like, why are we doing this? What's the value of it? I still get reach on linear, and I'll just keep buying GRPs to get there. So I think it's a culmination of all of that. And it takes a lot of technology, as Marty was saying, to really figure out how do you best maximize your revenue while maintaining user experience. And it's a very, very complex thing. And there's a lot of people trying to solve this in the marketplace right now. And so I really think you need the right people, you need the right processes in place, you need the right technology. And if you can't do all three of those together as kind of a triumvirate to make sure we get it right overall, I think it's going to be difficult. So I think it's going to be an evolving thing, following the marketplace where it goes. But again, you can't sacrifice user experience in order just to make more money.
No, that's a good point. Travis, we'll leave it to you.
Yeah,
here.
I think in the streaming space, we have a unique opportunity to be able to test different ad loads very rapidly, right? And it's all about reaching an equilibrium that that basically delivers the most ad viewership. The reason why ad loads are lighter right now in the streaming space is because that's what delivers the most ad viewership. It keeps people glued to the programming a little bit better to have shorter ad loads, we've discovered. And as more and more people come into the streaming space, I mean, if what they wanted to view was high ad loads, which of course it's not, then all publishers would rush to high ad loads. But we need to figure out what the acceptable ad load is for a type of content or within an app that maximizes ad viewership. So we're going to be running a lot of experiments as an industry, and that equilibrium, I think, will shift over time. And does that mean that ad loads will increase in the space over time? Yeah, probably, but I'm not exactly sure from where to where, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. And then I've heard sort of the counter argument to that, which is as people get used to watching lower ad loads on streaming and they're watching more streaming, suddenly when they go to linear, it's just going to seem really awful. Like, oh my God, how many, like, why are there so many ads on this? I personally have had that experience on certain shows too, where it's just like, wow, I forgot how many ads they run on that. Okay, I'm going to just do one last lightning round here because we just have a few minutes left, which is about this thing they've been calling the great rebundling. And it's sort of a tangent, but as this hybrid world is coming together, are we going to start seeing new bundles put together that mix hybrid and that mix sort of some sort of linear package with some sort of streaming package, and not just in the same publisher, that somebody will say, here's a bunch of linear you get, and then sort of the way you used to add on HBO and Showtime. Now you can add on Netflix and Amazon and all that, like, and maybe even or bundles are also going to include things like Spotify and a Washington Post subscription and whatnot. So I'll start with Krista and then work my way around. Krista, what do you think?
Truthfully, I don't have that crystal ball. I think it could be a combination of everything, right? I mean, we've gone so far over one way and now we've gone so far another way. I think it's going to follow consumer choice, right? And if this is something they really want, we're going to have to figure out, is this something we're willing to do? And companies have put a lot of effort into getting where they want to today to offer their own premium services and services out as their own packages, that it's gonna be a little bit flip-flopping. So we need to see where it goes.
Okay, Stacy.
I agree. I mean, I feel like the consumer would love a one-stop shop for like an ease and comfortability standpoint, but there's so many things and so much work that has been done to drive them apart. And I think in the end, if that happened, I mean, I think it would all come down to expense to the user and the consumer too. It depends on what those buckets and bundles look like and if it even makes sense anymore if they're that expensive. So I think if they are more expensive, they're just going to come back to publisher specific and kind of the model we're at now.
Travis.
Yeah, I think consumer preference will ultimately drive a lot of this. So whoever can really meet consumer preferences with great content is going to win. And I'm not exactly sure what that will mean in terms of bundling and unbundling, but if consumers want a more bundled economic model, I believe that as an industry, we'll move in that direction. It's not clear to me that that's necessarily what consumers are asking for, but if they do, I think that we'll find a way to deliver on it.
And Marnie, we'll leave it to you to close out here.
So I kind of want to go against it. And I think we are going to see more bundles, only because if you think about it, how it works in the, linear TV space to date, like, did you want all 7 of those movie channels? I'm not going to name them all, but because you wanted some of them, but you don't want everyone. I mean, I'm embarrassed to tell you that the movie channels I have right now on my TV that I take what I really want. And then sometimes there's a good movie on the other one. So I do think we're going to see more, because I think it's a way to increase revenue. And I know we're seeing bundles now, and I think it's also a way for people to test out new content that they wouldn't necessarily have gotten by itself. So I do think we are going to see more bundles.
Okay, cool. And I'll give my 2 cents is that I think that a lot of people would, a lot of the players in the industry would like to see it, because especially if you're running advertising, it kind of locks people in for a year. So you can say, hey, we're going to have X number of subscribers, you know, in 10 months. So there's a benefit to that. The hell with the consumer, right? Anyway, thank you. We're going to wrap up here. Thank you all so much for this. It was really informative and just a lot of fun. So thank you all very much. Thank you, Will Richmond, for having us, and Video News, and signing off.